For me personally, my character never try to attack my character. They'll say he a rat or he this and that. Yeah. All you got.
People will frequently target your reputation first when they wish to disparage you. In my own situation, that's precisely what took place. People attempt to discredit me by labeling me, calling me a rat, or making false accusations. Actually, though, all you have to do is review the documentation. In my entire life, I have never spied on anyone. Sure, my name appears occasionally, but if you look closely, you can see who genuinely collaborated and who didn't. Whether someone is a citizen or a convicted criminal, guilty or innocent, the facts are what they are. Only when you are asked directly on the stand, "Did you see such and such do this? Is it possible to say something like that?" There is nothing there to save that. However, realities aren't usually dealt with in the streets. They work with perception. Furthermore, it's quite difficult to get rid of a label after someone has chosen to apply it to you. You already know that 50 Cent is not the type of man you want to spend a lot of time with if you know anything about him. He has a sharp tongue, a never-ending supply of humor, and a knack for entertaining the audience while entangling his rivals. When 50 emerged as one of the loudest voices, escalating the snitching rumors that had plagued T's career for years, T found himself having to learn that lesson the hard way. That rumor became a thundercloud that followed him everywhere. It made supporters mistrust him, cost him the respect of his peers, and left his name being whispered in the worst possible ways on the streets. Additionally, 50 continued putting fuel onto the fire rather than letting it go out, constantly reminding people of the Crime Stoppers commercial and those court cases. Initially made an effort to act calm and act as though nothing bothered him. However, it was enough at last. He swung back, refusing to ignore the shots. He openly challenged 50 to a race on 20 tracks. Additionally, he performed it on his 50th birthday to add even more spice. Not only did that action intensify the conflict, but it also all but assured that 50 would not overlook it. As expected, 50 retaliated by publishing the notorious 2008 Crime Stoppers public service announcement, in which T advised viewers to contact the tip line in the event that they had information about criminal activity. Instantly, the internet exploded. Fans joked, memes overtook timelines, and T gained popularity for all the wrong reasons. T and 50 weren't always at odds, which is the irony of it all. They were cool, cooperating, exchanging respect, and both happily occupying the top spots in the rap industry years ago. However, the snitch narrative never truly went away once it was attached to Tip's identity. Tip had to defend his credibility all the time because 50 wouldn't bury it. Regardless of his level of success in music or other fields, there were speculations that T was destined to portray the shrewd lawyer Davis McLean in Power, a part that Method Man subsequently played. Rumors circulated that 50 Cent himself turned down the offer because of their past. T made an effort to put an end to that as soon as possible by publicly denouncing it as fake news and stating that he and 50 respected one another. The problem is that 50 never gave a word of confirmation or denial. His silence merely increased conjecture, leading others to question whether T had actually been shut out of the circle. When T was questioned directly about the claims during an interview, he played things down. He claimed that he and 50 had a very rocky relationship that was difficult for outsiders to comprehend, and that they were actually working as executive producers on a different project, outside of Power. He said there was no hostility, and that they respected each other's unvarnished attitude. However, the key query for a lot of supporters was still why T continues to have this unstoppable reputation. And why is 50 determined to keep bringing it up? That 2007 case is where it all began. T was dealing with significant federal weapons charges at the time. The stakes were really high. He faced the prospect of serving 20 years in prison. Amidst all of that, he made an appearance in a Crime Stoppers commercial, urging people to take action and prevent crime. From his point of view, it might have been an attempt to improve his reputation or demonstrate good faith in court, but to the rap community, it appeared to be the worst possible transgression. Never supporting law enforcement under any circumstances is essential to street credibility. That commercial gave him the reputation of a snitch overnight, and it stayed. Furthermore, nobody made it louder than 50. He made fun of it, mentioned it in interviews, incorporated it into songs, and ensured that it persisted in the collective consciousness. Nor was it limited to internet trolling. On Gunnitz, 50 brought the feud into the studio. "You're quite tough." He made direct remarks to T, asking how someone could be discovered in possession of 10 machine guns and only be given a year. He suggested that someone having to give up information was the only way such a lenient punishment could be given. The entire industry listened intently, and many people had similar questions. After his own bodyguard, who later turned out to be an informant, brought him silencers and machine guns in return for money, T was taken into custody. T was not allowed to own a small armory, much less be near a gun, because he was a convicted felon. Nevertheless, he received a sentence that startled many by including home detention, community service, and a brief jail term considering the seriousness of the allegations. For 50 and many others, it didn't make sense. 50 played coy even when asked in interviews, allowing the audience to make the connection without mentioning T's name out loud. However, the harm had already been done. I was unable to avoid the rumors that filled the streets. Tried to maintain composure when questioned about it, even granting 50 the benefit of the doubt. But at the time, he couldn't risk taking too much revenge because federal investigators were still keeping a tight eye on him. He needed to face greater battles. That kind of beef, however, never truly goes away. Even if it may be quiet for a while, it always comes back. And that's precisely what occurred in 2020, at a time when Tekashi 6 was already causing the community to talk about snitching non-stop. I increased knee in his legal case. T was immediately thrust back into the flames when the old Crime Stoppers footage reappeared online. It couldn't have come at a worse time. Once again, 50 jumped on it immediately, clowning him online, posting jokes, and making sure people remembered. The first song he would play in a versus duel with T, he even claimed, would be "You So Tough." He went one step further and reposted the audio from the diss track and the Crime Stoppers video, making the connection for anyone who might have forgotten. This time, T didn't sit quietly. Retaliating on the internet, he denied ever assisting law enforcement, denied any collaboration, and even turned the tables on 50 by implying that he might have his own secrets. While putting down the gauntlet for a versus duel, he made lengthy remarks challenging 50 to demonstrate his impeccable cleanliness. He ridiculed the 1950s catalog, claiming it was out of date and overpriced, and he was prepared to put it out of business for good. That intensity demonstrated how deeply the accusations had affected him. 50 had obviously touched a nerve. The back and forth permeated Instagram lives and interviews. T repeatedly brought up the Crime Stoppers video in an attempt to defend himself and change the course of events. However, 50 increased the pressure once again. He tweeted a caution of his own, reminding T that it would be best to stay away. It was a statement that gave the conflict a more sinister than lighthearted vibe. Following King Von's untimely demise in 2020, the situation became much more heated. T wrote a post advising people to keep their arguments in their own cities and asking them not to bring their violence to Atlanta. Many interpreted it as a jab at Von and his camp, even though his goal may have been to defend his city. After Van's sister gave a forceful retort, 50 intervened once more, elaborating on her remarks and offering his own scathing criticism. He warned T that he was playing with fire, that people were in pain, and that slick remarks weren't appropriate at this moment. Another instance in which he publicly tipped a $50 check indicated that he was not going to let go of the tension anytime soon. Following that, further reports regarding T.I.'s involvement in Power surfaced. According to cast members, he was initially scheduled to play Davis McLean before Method Man took his place, which fueled rumors that 50 had passed him up. T jumped on a podcast to deny it, stating that he and 50 still respected each other and that it was untrue. 50, however, remained silent once more. Additionally, he views stillness as a tactic rather than a sign of peace. He is unable to forgive or forget. When the time is appropriate, he waits, reloads, and strikes. Regarding the entire saga, fans are still split. Some contend that T's brief statement speaks for itself, pointing out that T skated with a slap on the wrist despite being discovered in possession of an arsenal, while others have received 10 or more sentences for a single pistol. The entire situation seemed to them to be one of cooperation. Either directly or indirectly. Others, on the other hand, reverse the narrative and imply that he doesn't have the best record. They see this feud as nothing more than a powerful man dragging another down with his platform. Ultimately, it doesn't seem like the conflict between T and 50 Cent will ever be resolved. Hip-hop history now includes the accusations, the Crime Stoppers commercial, the diss tracks, and the internet posts. Furthermore, given 50's attitude, it's never about whether he would bring up past feuds again. Rather, it's about when she will continue to stand up for his reputation and legacy. But regardless of what he does, the specter of those charges remains. The culture is still divided, and there are still disagreements over whether Tip truly deserved to be called a spy. There is no doubt that Tip will never completely leave the discourse as long as 50 continues it, and he wouldn't have it any other way, knowing 50.